Welcome back to the Prophets of IT, the show where the smartest people in IT come to challenge the playbook, burn down the myths, and say what the rest of the industry is thinking but won't say out loud. I'm Jim Punzenberger, your host, the guy who got tired of watching great IT companies die slow deaths because they couldn't build a pipeline. And that's why managedprospecting.com exists. I built it, I run it, and every piece of it comes from the fact that I owned an MSP, sold it, and learned the hard way that referrals alone will break your heart. Managed Prospecting System has 3 pillars: authority content that makes you look like experts, LinkedIn outreach that gets you FaceTime with actual decision makers, and email campaigns that land in the inboxes and get replies, all done for you. So check out managedprospectingsystem.com after the show. All right, well, today's guest is about to make a lot of cybersecurity vendors very uncomfortable. He's the president of CHIPS, Cyber Defense Solutions. He's ran an MSP for about 24 years, so he's been exactly where you are, and he speaks 4 languages. Not to mention, his entire thesis is that cybersecurity industry has been selling you the wrong game plan. He says prevention is possible even against zero-day attacks, and that detect and respond is a game that you're destined to lose with. Tony, welcome to Prophets of IT, and let's make some noise and say hi to the audience.
Thanks, Jim. Great being here.
And your walk-up song, "We Will Rock You" by Queen, is a great song. How did that become your choice?
It stems back from my childhood. I was a big soccer player, played on many elite teams, and we'd actually play it on the field pre-game, warming up before the championship matches. So it was a little cocky, but it's set the stage for a strong game, and we were typically on the winning side of that. So,
Well, great. Let's jump right into your truth bomb. And Tony, yours is going to set the comment section on fire maybe here. Which is the entire cybersecurity industry is built on detect and respond. Every EDR vendor, every SIM vendor, every SOC provider pitches we detect threats faster and respond before they damage anything or the damage spreads. And you're standing here saying that that's the wrong game. Tell us more.
yeah, well, if you think about it, you just said the damage spreads. Well, that means that there's damage, right?
Yeah.
So is that really something that you want to acknowledge or allow happen? Like, oh, we've got, 10 rooms in our house and only one of them will catch on fire and burn. The other ones are saved, or, maybe it's only half the house, or, that kind of thing. To me, from especially with the cybersecurity scenario, if the bad guys have already gotten into that house, into the office, they've got their hands on your stuff, that's too late. Waiting for the cops to show up and do something about it, you're playing the wrong game. And that's where the technology AppGuard and its sister cousin products really kind of help to change the equation from responding to a threat that already happened to preventing it from occurring in the first place.
Mm-hmm. So the conventional wisdom that preventing, if you have to prevent the threat from spreading, makes your eyes roll, it sounds like, instead of
Yeah, it,
preventing the
it's
threat in the first place.
yeah, it's kind of like, if you were to invest all this money into a security system that had this, let's call it a reinforced steel door on your office, and if it looked at the person coming up to the door and recognized them to be a bad guy, it would lock. And it's like, okay, all you have to do is throw a mask on, and now you're into the office and you have free reign because you're not a bad guy. That's not really a good, you know, kind of standpoint to be working from. What we change that equation, which would be more akin to a building access control system where you can't get into that building unless you have the badge, the card to get in to begin with, right? So, it doesn't matter, if the system recognizes you or not. You put a mask on, wear different clothes, whatever. You got to be able to, be recognized and confirmed before you even step foot into the building. But at that point, you don't have free reign. You have to go into, exactly the area that you're allowed to and nothing more. And now you've got constraints around, not only what can happen, but the extent at which that program or that person has access.
That makes sense. That's definitely a different way of thinking about security, and a much better than letting them in and then trying to stop them.
Yeah, because otherwise you're waiting for maybe the roaming security guard to happen to cross them in the hallway and be like, "Hey, who are you?" You know, I don't recognize you. And now they're trying to reference some kind of known book of bad guys, or if you see not only the face, but maybe it's a behavior pattern, somebody that's carrying a toolbox. Why are they doing that? Those kinds of things. Those are all things that, if you had unlimited time to stop the bad guy, great. But, nowadays, especially with AI, the attacks are happening so fast. It's not days or weeks any longer. It's minutes, sometimes seconds before the compromise has already occurred and finished. So, we've got to start thinking about it differently in the digital age of machine speed attacks versus somebody sitting at a keyboard and typing in stuff and seeing what the result is.
That definitely makes sense. So let's shift gears here, Tony, and chat about your superpower. And I think yours is one that hits close to home for many. And because you ran an MSP for 24 years, it it hits close to home for me. So, I built and sold one myself. So you said your biggest strength is that you've lived up the ups and downs of the MSP business, and you can share your experiences and connections from your network to help partners succeed faster. So you're not selling to MSPs, you're coaching them as one of them. What does that look like?
Yeah, with this many years in business, I've found that the best relationships, the best customers, the people you want to do business with are the ones that you have relationship with. So I always come from, you know, trying to learn about people. How can I help them? And most of the time that comes back and they reciprocate. And if I'm speaking specifically with an MSP, you know, it might not be the right timing for them to start working with us because of whatever else is going on. But if they're, trying to solve, a set of problems, even if it's not something our tech addresses, maybe it's a hiring situation, maybe it's a, scenario where they need to, talk to a lawyer to get their agreements put together, or, whatever it is. There's lots of different business challenges that could be occurring. I'm more than happy to kind of, go into my digital Rolodex and be like, hey, you're finding a hard time, finding staff. I've got a recruiter that specializes in managed services organizations, everything from text to salespeople to admin folks, like you name it. He's got the experience, knows exactly what you need. It's got a, bench of people that want to work, help make that easy. And, you solve those challenges for, the MSP or whoever you're talking to. I find that they're, not only grateful, but they're, now in a space where they've got the bandwidth to listen and be like, okay, the chaos has kind of subsided. The fog is clearing. Let's talk about AppGuard. Let's talk about the security solutions that you guys offer and how we can make things even better now. Right. But if the house is on fire and they can't even focus. It's the wrong time to try and, start a business relationship. Let's solve the problem at hand. So
That makes sense. I guess this would be a good time to segue into asking you more about chips and AppGuard. What's got you excited today in your world?
yeah, well, it's time has flown by. It's been 7 years now since I was introduced to the AppGuard technology, and at that point had been around technology all my life, ran the MSP, for what 15 years or so, and when I saw the AppGuard technology and its sister product, CyberCloak, I was just blown away by this technology, and I'm like, this defies everything that people are getting taught in school, the conventional knowledge in the commercial space, and this was 2019. If you remember back, it would seem like every day there was a major organization in the news get that was non-functional because of a ransomware attack. Everything from manufacturers to banks to even hospitals. And there's been accounts of people dying because they didn't get the care they needed because of this ransomware attack. And I'm like, why is this AppGuard technology not everywhere? This should be something that everybody's using. And the inventors, kind of told me the backstory. It was invented for the U.S. intelligence community, was classified, and I just happened to, get connected through my network, from somebody that knew them, and I'm like, I know a lot of people in the business community. I can, try and see what's going on. But long story short, this is something that, as you stated, Jim, really kind of goes against the traditional logic of having to always buy the latest product, always having to run updates, always have to do X, Y, and Z. AppGuard is something that you can buy it. It is a subscription, but once it's configured to the mission at hand, it doesn't need to change constantly. There's been mission objectives, policies we call them, that are you know solid for years at a time. Which if you were to say, hey, I'm going to install a security software today, and 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it's still stopping all the threats, they'll be like, there's no way possible. You got to update that every hour. You've got to be, getting the latest version, right? It just works in a completely different methodology. And, with AI and, everything kind of going around detection, this is the one thing that still is standing up to all those threats without having to be, changed or told that, hey, the bad guys are doing something different today. So that's keeping me excited. Not only the effectiveness, but what it's actually providing for our partners, for their customers, and avoiding the chaos. Because from an MSP's perspective, if they're chasing fires all day, right? Somebody clicked on something and now this is going crazy, or
Mhm.
their printer doesn't work, or all these miscellaneous things. That's a lot of noise, a lot of help desk requests that have to be answered. And AppGuard essentially makes it so that the computers only run things in alignment with the mission that business wants it to do. So, said a different way, when all the computers are on their best behavior and they're doing only the things they're supposed to, those reactive tickets, at least half of them go away. There's a organization managing about 50,000 workstations, and they said their reactive tickets dropped 72%. They've been using AppGuard for over 5 years and have never had another, cyber incident on a device since they implemented it. So it really kind of changes that whole situation. They were able to not only, be less stressed on a day-to-day basis, but they were able to get to all those projects and take care of those things that add value, rather than just putting out fires. So it can change not only from a cyber perspective, the risk, but how an MSP operates and how profitable it becomes. So instead of security being this necessary evil, it actually becomes a margin protector for their organization so that they can grow their business.
Well, that's great. And Tony, so if somebody's interested and would like to learn more about AppGuard, what would be a good next step?
Well, they can definitely check out the website, the prevent-ransomware.com. We'll give them some information. There's a button on there to schedule, kind of a no risk consultation. Like we said before, I'm happy just to meet people, share information, help them figure out how that might work within their organization, even test it out if they're still not sure. But bottom line is love to connect with them, and through the website, scheduling a meeting, or they can find me on LinkedIn as well. And we can set a meeting from that interface. But prevent-ransomware.com will have that information to at least, start to get them thinking about how this could work, and then I can get together and answer those questions.
Well, we'll include that information in the show notes, so check the show notes. And any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
Yeah, just in today's age, and I've heard people in the industry talking about this shift forward, to left of boom. Some people call it like an MSP 3.0 paradigm. But this whole concept of moving to the left of the detonation, the preventative, the stopping things before the fire breaks out, and now it's a four-alarm fire everybody's scrambling to try and deal with. It can be prevented on, Windows servers, workstations, and not just the new stuff, even the legacy equipment, the Windows 7, Windows XP devices, those old servers that are still hanging out. All those things can be adequately protected, and, happy to kind of challenge the status quo, if you will, and show them how, using a different methodology will get them the result they're hoping for. But thanks for the time, Jim. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Tony. Your 24 years of MSP battle scars, and which turned into a cybersecurity revolution, it sounds like here. I really respect that. Thank you for coming on and sharing today, buddy.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
And until next time, stay hydrated and caffeinated, and check out managedprospectingsystem.com. Bye for now.